from Westminster by TalkTV's political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald. Alicia, it was quite an evening last night, and as we were just seeing a bit of a clip there, Keir Starmer having some fun with the Prime Minister.
Definitely. Well, Keir Starmer definitely didn't waste any time today in Prime Minister's questions. He was very quick to highlight an issue that lots of us seem to have actually moved on from, and that is the fact that there are lots of illegal migrants currently in the United Kingdom that Rishi Sunak and the government just don't know their whereabouts of. Keir Starmer did this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because clearly that is a massive issue in itself, but secondly, it actually highlights something that we have been talking about today on TalkTV, and that is that amongst all of the noise, all of the infighting about the Rwanda scheme, the government just don't seem to have a grip on illegal migration at all in several areas. And then we also had that news just now that the president of Rwanda has said he'd actually return the money if no migrants get sent there. So there's a lot at stake here, and Keir Starmer definitely had a bit of an open goal at Prime Minister's question today.
Don't ask me to compute this, but this is the mathematics. I'm no good at mathematics, like most journalists, until they're doing their expenses. So 60 voted for these amendments last night. So the question is, so Jake Berry, for example, who we'll be talking to later, former chairman of the party and of this parish TalkTV, he said he voted for the amendments, but would think very, very hard before he votes against the actual bill, because that could, in extreme circumstances, spell the end of the government, the end of the Tory government. But we are hearing, Alicia, that just 33 Tory MPs will need to vote against the government to bring down this bill. What is the feeling there in Westminster? 33 doesn't seem that many, and we know that many of them are of firm resolve with this. So is the feeling that Rishi could seriously be in trouble here?
Definitely, but just quickly on your first point that you made about those voting in favour of the amendments last night to toughen up the Rwanda scheme and then potentially voting in favour of the bill today, despite those amendments not being applied. I actually just spoke to a senior Conservative MP who sadly didn't want to go on the record, but, you know, needs must. And he said, if you look at it this way, logically, it makes no sense for them to want a harder version of the Rwanda scheme and then vote against the bill today, because that could mean there'll be no Rwanda scheme whatsoever. So actually, if you look at it that way, you can see why maybe the numbers from last night aren't quite translating over to the numbers today. The rebellion is expected to be quite small today. It's definitely below 10. That's what lots of MPs have said to me today. They don't think that it's going to be massive, and they do think that the bill is going to pass. If it doesn't pass, I think we can expect lots of letters of no confidence about Rishi Sunak, because he has put so much of his electoral game into the Rwanda scheme, and then if it falls at this hurdle, he will look very, very weak as a Prime Minister. Obviously, though, that news today about the Rwandan president saying that he could return the money if no migrants are sent becomes a really easy attack line for all those who oppose the scheme, because they can say, hang on, surely just return the taxpayers' money, it's not too late, and we can do something else.
And Alicia, talk to us a little bit about these, not one but two Conservative deputy chairmen who resigned yesterday. I thought it was very interesting. Their letter, very lengthy resignation letter, but sort of more in sorrow than in anger, saying, that they do support Rishi Sunak, but they can't support this bill. They couldn't support it last night and had to vote with the amendments. Presumably now that they have done that, people like them are going to continue rebelling.
I mean, it's probably quite likely that those two in particular will continue to rebel, but as I said earlier, it is a bit of a strange approach to take, to ask for a tougher version of the bill and then potentially see the failure of the bill altogether because you're rebelling against it. You're kind of at a bit of a stalemate there in what you do. But I thought that letter was really interesting, between the one that was joint signed by Lee Anderson and by Brendan Clarke-Smith, because there was a lot about their personal credibility. There was a lot of mention about their standards, their morals and their personal politics, and it has led some Conservative MPs to say that it became too much of a personal issue for them rather than one that affects the whole party. And that is definitely a criticism that those on the right are facing. Lots of the One Nation Conservatives, lots of those with a more centrist, more moderate approach to immigration are saying that those on the right are doing it for personal reasons rather than for the benefit of the party as a whole. And especially when we're coming up to an election year, that will be something that lots of the Conservatives find really damaging.
We should remember that what these rebels are saying is the reason they will vote against the Rwanda bill without the amendments is they just say, as Suella Braverman is leading this charge, it simply will not work in its current form. So if the rebellion is just 10, Rishi gets away with it, but only just. But maybe the rebellion will be more than this. We're just hearing, though, Alicia, perhaps we get your thoughts on this, that Rwanda is saying that if we don't send a single migrant to Rwanda, they will return the many millions of pounds we've already sent Rwanda to house our deportees. They might as well send the money back now then, mightn't they?
Well, yes, and now's probably a good time to reiterate that not a single migrant has actually been sent to Rwanda. We've had more Home Secretaries actually visit Rwanda and more journalists visit Rwanda than any migrants. We'll remember a couple of years ago, was it last year? Honestly, it's all blurring into one. We've been talking about it for so long, but there was that initial flight with just 7 migrants ready to take off before the European Court of Human Rights passed a last-minute judgment and stopped it from doing so. So we've just had no progress with the scheme from there, still no migrants. And this news about the Rwandan president potentially saying that money could be returned will definitely just be a big open goal for all of those who oppose the scheme. They will just be really, really pressuring the Prime Minister to drop it now, get the money returned and focus his time on something else that maybe is more effective.
Alicia Fitzgerald, TalkTV's excellent political correspondent, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.